everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Viall Files. I am your host, Nick, joined by Allie, Amanda. Chrissy, it's her last day, last episode on the Viall Files. She's literally, after we get done, going deep into the woods to find...
Not before I press my uniform.
You're like on the hunt for undiscovered trees? Is that?
Mating rituals of elk. That's going to be my feature.
You will be missed, Chrissy.
With all this dating advice, how can I not do something else that has to do with relationships and sex?
Well, Chrissy, we love you. It's been a pleasure having. How many episodes did you do with us? Do you know?
Like 180. 180 episodes. It's crazy.
Is it because, like, you know, as my producer, you have to like re-listen to all the episodes? Do you hate my voice now? I guess I could say the same thing to my audience or ask the same question.
No, I don't hate your voice. I'm just used to it. It's a good voice. But yes, I listen to them multiple times each episode.
Ouch.
You have a good voice. I told you, I sent you a message earlier. I love you, Nick. I love you so much.
Wow.
And I like to watch you grow and to watch this show grow and to have the addition of Amanda and Allie and then all the people that work behind the scenes on this show that would never get the recognition. It's sad, but I'm excited for what's in front of me, but it's sad because I love all the people.
Well, you never get the recognition you deserve as the producer. So much of that you brought to the show is behind the scenes. Also, your laugh. The people are going to miss your laugh.
Best everything that ever happened to me was for Howie Mandel to say my laugh was great and annoying all at the same time. My favorite moment.
Well, we have a great episode for you. Amelie Zilber is with us, a young up-and-coming, well, she's not even up-and-coming. She has arrived. TikTok star, but not the type of TikTok star you might think of. She doesn't dance. She doesn't sing or lip sync. She informs, and really enjoyed this conversation. I don't think I've ever met someone, especially her age, or even regardless of age, incredible perspective, views on life, and I think we can take a lot of wisdom from her, and just a really fun conversation. So if you are a fan of Amelie and you are tuning in for the first time to this podcast to listen to her, welcome. We appreciate you listening to our show. We have 3 shows a week. We have these types of interviews where we talk to public figures like Amelie. We have a relationship and dating show on Mondays called Ask Nick. People email their stories in, they call in, they share their stories. Very relatable stories about all sorts of different relationship topics, and we share some perspective and give an honest interpretation of what their situation might be so they can empower them to make better choices about their decisions. So if you are in any type of relationship situation that you sometimes struggle with finding the answers, or you're tired of leaning on your friends that just tell you what you want to hear, give us a listen. I think you might enjoy it. And then also we cover The Bachelor when it's on, if you're into that sort of thing. That one sells itself. You either like it or you don't.
You just always leave it for the end. You're like, finally, The Bachelor.
You know. But yeah, that's our episode that we're going to bring you today. Allie, Amanda, anything new with you ladies before we get into it?
Yeah, I need your perspective on something, because I wasn't here yesterday, so I couldn't ask you. Okay, so met this guy on a dating app, right? We made plans to go out on Saturday night. We were like gonna grab burgers or drinks or something when he was done at the hospital, because he's in his final year of med school. Whatever, we like chat back and forth, like we're texting for a few days beforehand. He's like, I'll let you know when I'm off. I get fully ready for this date. He has like I was like, how's work going? And he was like, oh, I'm home. And I was like, okay, cool. Just like, let me know what the timing is, because it's cheaper for me to like schedule a lift than do an ASAP, because he's in freaking Highland Park and I'm in Hollywood. Like literally an hour and a half or 2 hours goes by and I like do not hear from him. So I like literally...
Did he respond to that text?
No. And so I'm sitting in my apartment on a Saturday night, sobbing, fully hair and makeup done, have no plans because this man has like fully stood me up. Finally responds like 2 hours later saying, sorry, fell asleep. There's like no follow-up plan. There's like nothing else said. So then literally I need you to look at these freaking messages because I'm like, what? Because he doesn't follow up with any other plans. And then he just kind of like
Did you respond to the fall asleep thing?
He did say, OMG,
And?
I'm sorry I fell asleep.
Okay.
But you're right. There was no follow-up.
I just felt like there maybe should have been a second one of like, when else are you free? Like, da da da
Yes,
da
he did not follow up.
Yeah.
But he did reach out on Sunday, hi, with a wavy hand.
With a wavy hand. Still no plans. Or
I didn't hear from you, so I made other plans.
That's what I said. Because he doesn't need to know that I cried in my apartment alone.
But why? But
Oh, Allie.
all right, I'm reading this, and I'm gonna be totally honest with you. Like, what he did at first was wrong and terrible and dickish. He had plans. Like, one advice to you is never accept plans with, especially a first date or in general, with a guy who already has plans. Like, he had something else going on, and he's like, "Oh, I'll call you like when I'm done." You should have been like, "No. Like, let's just pick a night when you're like available or free, because I'm not
it was work. Like, it wasn't like
whatever.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it was coming like, I'll call you when I'm done. That's like, if it's the first date, when are you available enough to like set up a time?
And I also felt like it was a bad move on his part because he clearly didn't let me know when he was done. He didn't say I'm leaving the hospital. He didn't say I'm home. The only reason he told me he was home is because I had said,
fine,
how's
that's what I'm
work
saying,
going?
But don't like an open-ended plan is not a plan. I'll call you when
I don't know. I just feel like I'm like frustrated with him in general.
Sure.
And I feel like there's a lack of effort on his part that I'm like, why? I don't want to put up with this.
You hadn't met with this guy.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
I've like never met with him in person. Nick's scrolling way up on my phone.
Yeah, sorry. I realized this wasn't my phone. But yeah, once he did this to you, then you're clearly participating in this, what seems to be some sort of game, either intentionally or unintentionally. You're clearly going on your way to not respond to him right away. It's kind of obvious that you're waiting to respond. You sometimes flat out ignore him. Then he says, hey, and then you out of nowhere say, what are you doing here, dude? Like,
I was just like, dude, what are we doing here? Like, I'm like, cause I'm like, I don't need all these highs and hays. Like, what are we doing here?
no, I know, but how, but that's why ask a question when you know the answer. The answer is, why are we doing just, I don't know.
So I just let it die.
You're investing a lot in a guy you haven't met because he essentially flaked on you.
Yeah. I kind of just
someone who you didn't really say you were interested in.
Yeah. I'm like, you're not even like cute enough.
What would you tell me to do, Allie?
Just be like, whatever, fuck it. I like being
There you
alone.
go. Again, the three of us able to educate each other and help each other, but not able to help ourselves.
Well, because like he's just like, you're like, what do you mean? You're like, hey, no other plans were met. He's like, well, I'm trying to make plans, and he's not going about it in a good way.
Yeah.
And yes, he flaked.
But then he was like, when works for you? I offered a time, and he was like, I'm working. And then didn't offer another time. Like, that's the thing. I'm like, I don't want to be the engine behind this anymore.
I mean, you're right. Yes. So I guess my question to you is, why do you even have a question? Why isn't it not
Should I just be done with him?
obvious? Well, yeah.
Okay.
What's the most compelling thing about him?
Nothing.
Yeah. it's a lot of energy you're wasting in someone you
I know, because I
haven't met.
didn't want to just like cancel and be done and like be like, fuck you, you fell asleep. But it's just like, I feel like then I was waiting for
You also don't need to coach him up.
more plans.
Like this, how old is this person?
I mean, he's what, in his final year of med school?
Okay.
That must mean at least like 25, 26.
So it's clear that he is A, not a great communicator, and B, not going out of his way to make an actual plan with you. And even non-planners who are excited make a plan, at least for a first date. And you don't want to text him and be like, explain to an adult man how he should go about doing that. And so you just need to accept that he's not doing it for you and move on.
Just be done.
And yeah, there's no point in responding. And like, if you respond to him now and you're done, just say, hey, listen, it didn't seem like you're all that you don't even say that. It just seems like he says, hey, you're just like, hey, it doesn't seem like it's a match, but like best of luck.
Yeah.
Because you know, don't ignore him and maybe and see if he really comes out of his shell. But
yeah,
you're putting a lot of effort into someone who's giving you all the answers already.
Another one bites the dust.
They're giving you the answers. You're just not listening.
Moving on.
We have a great episode. Amelie Zilber. You're going to love her if you don't already. Enjoy. Amelie, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I'm very excited to have you. I'm a little nervous. You're a very fascinating and accomplished person.
Thank you.
At an early stage of your life.
Yes.
I was like reading about you and all that you've done, and then I thought about all the things I've done in my life that I'm older than you, and then I thought about what I was doing, you know, at your age, and
no, I mean,
very impressive.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
It is.
So.
See, another goddamn. Yeah, it is. But thank you for coming. You've obviously I have so much to talk to you about, but I do know that off the bat you are very passionate about Middle Eastern politics and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I have been watching that 9/11 documentary on Netflix.
Haven't seen that yet.
You
but
haven't
it's on
seen
my
it.
list.
You should watch. I'm curious what you think, but it's fascinating because obviously it starts with the day of 9/11 and the terrorist attacks, but it really goes in and then goes back to the Russian invasion of Afghanistan. I know that you have been talking about it on your social platforms.
Yeah.
And it's really it's fascinating to me because I think it goes into a lot about, you know, looking at the other side, why things happen. I'm a big believer in like cause and effect. I really just believe in physics in the sense that like what has drawn you? You speak Arabic?
A little bit. I'm learning it in school, so I am not well versed in the slightest.
More than most. But I guess my big question is what drew you to that? Like how did someone in your position say, this is a passion project of mine?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I really credit my love for Middle Eastern foreign affairs to a history teacher that I had in 10th grade. He was from Israel and he was teaching at the high school that I was going to here in Studio City. And there was kind of this like running joke that he was like part of like the Israeli security force because he's like this really mysterious, like we don't know anything about his past kind of teacher. And the first day of class, I was just like kind of really intrigued by him. And I'm the type of person, and I am also the type of student where like I just kind of just like confront any situation. Like that's just kind of who I am. I don't really hold myself back if I'm interested in about something or about someone. So right after class, I kind of went up to him after he gave a little summary about what we were learning that year. And I was like, here, this is what I've heard about you. And I know that you're from Israel and I know that you're likely really into Middle Eastern foreign policy. And that's something I don't really know a lot about, but I would love to learn more. And then basically for the following year, like every single day we would go and I'd have lunch with him. I didn't have many friends in high school. So like I would go and have lunch with my teachers and I would stay late after school and like he would teach me Arabic words and he would help me understand what's happening in the Middle East. And we kind of like cultivated this relationship that was really based on Middle Eastern foreign policy, even though like the class that I was in wasn't about that at all. And I learned from that experience that I could study Middle Eastern foreign policy for hours and hours and hours and hours. And like, I just genuinely didn't even realize time had passed. And I think when you find that, you like know it's a passion of yours. Sure. So then I would like spend my Saturdays reading things that he would tell me to read. I would like look up UN, they would look up treaties and whatnot and just like print them out and read them in my room. And it's ironic because I found like validation in myself through that rather than like from other people. Like usually you would think like, oh, I didn't have many friends. I was in my room spending my Saturdays like reading instead of, you know, going to a party or like hanging out with other people. But that experience kind of made me realize that I can validate myself through my own ambitions and passions. And yeah, that's how I started. And it's obviously progressed since then into now being the major that I'm majoring in college.
Driving force. What is, not that we're going to spend a whole episode talking about Middle Eastern politics, but I mean, even dating back to 9/11, and probably the 9/11 still affects our society today. But I feel like there's a lot of ignorance around the Middle East and understanding the culture, and still a lot of, again, hate and ignorance. What are some things that, as you've learned, that you try to advocate for or share with your audience to enlighten them and have a better understanding of the Middle East?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting question you ask because, and I'm no expert myself. Like have only been studying this for a few years, like on my own time and in school. But I think the biggest issue is that when something goes viral on the internet, like a certain news issue is trending or whatever, and it happens to be in the Middle East, like there's already all these stereotypes that we have ingrained in our head from what we learn from like westernized culture and the westernized like school systems that we grew up in. So a lot of the times we neglect to look at like history and context and fail to recognize that these issues have been studied for like hundreds of years, or not studied for, but like have dated back to hundreds of years ago, and people have been studying them for 30 years and they still don't have an answer or like a really solidified opinion. And in the age of social media, it's really easy to kind of just like look at an issue and read an article about it and be like, oh, this is where I stand, this is the right thing and this is the wrong thing. And especially with the Middle East, like every issue in the Middle East is deeply historic and deeply complicated, and it's just a region that people don't recognize needs a lot of studying to be able to form an opinion on. So
maybe the biggest thing is to not judge so quickly.
Yeah, don't take things at surface level value.
If you like exciting, if you like new, and you like wines, well, let me tell you about Laithwaites. A Laithwaite wine subscription is an easy way to bring exciting new wines right to your doorstep. Unbox a world of wine with easy access to different and unexpected winemakers from all over the globe. You know what I love about wine subscription boxes is, like they said, great new wines. You get to sound smart, You get to sound like you know what you're talking about when it comes to presenting new wines, and they give you the information about the wines. Like the Bee's Knees is a zingy, thrilling South African white wine from Journey's End. Imagine having people over and entertaining, and you're like, would you like to try some Bee's Knee, a zingy, thrilling South African white wine from Journey's End? And I'll be like, oh my God, you're so like you know about wine. That's why I like it. I like to sound smart. Laithwaites tastes over 40,000 wines a year, but only 600 make the cut. So it's good. You enjoy the cream of the crop. The wines you receive are curated for you based on your enjoyment. 100% satisfaction is guaranteed. If you don't love the wine for any reason, let Laithwaites know, and you'll receive a refund. Members save on every subscription case they choose to take. Each box includes tasting notes, food pairing tips, and serving inspiration. Subscriptions are flexible. There's no commitment to continue, and you can cancel online anytime. Now get 6 amazing bottles of wine plus 2 bonus bottles and 2 stemless wine glasses for $49.99 plus tax with free delivery. Just text VIALL to 64,000 to get this special offer. Text VIALL to 64,000. That's VIALL to 64,000. Terms apply. Available at laithwaites.com/terms. We like to think of ourselves as unique. I know I do. And the hard part about retail shopping is they have such a finite amount of sizes. And why settle for traditional retail sizes? Why? Tell me, why should we do that? Well, we don't have to, because at least the ladies out there don't have to. Public Rec is available to you. So you no longer have to submit to yourself to like whatever it is, 4 or 5 different sizes. Nuts. It's ridiculous that our sizes change brand to brand when our bodies stay the same. You're a measurement, not a size. And pants should take into account more than just one measurement. You don't have to change. Shopping for clothes does. That's why you should check out Public Rec. They make athleisure wear in waist and inseam sizes because they believe comfort starts with a better fit. The all-day jogger is the first of its kind technical pant available in waist and inseam sizes. This means women can shop based on their unique proportions. No more settling for small, medium, or large. From working out to going out, these highly versatile joggers have got you covered. With 30 combination sizes and 4 different length options, these joggers will fit your body perfectly in all the right places. What are the right places?
Well, I know for me, like I struggle with typical like sizing because I have a very like it's what people call like a ruler shape. So my waist and my hips are pretty much like the same. So things end up being either way too big or way too small on either or. So if I could go off of my like measurements as opposed to just having it all be the same, huge move.
And Public Rec has you covered.
Yeah.
Well, if we've never had pants fit so well, and you can also have pants and athleisure wear that never fit so well with Public Rec. Public Rec rarely discounts, but right now they have an exclusive offer just for Viall listeners. Go to publicrec.com and use our code VIALL to receive 10% off. That's publicrec.com and use promo code VIALL for 10% off. Yeah, and like you said, that's kind of something that people should try to apply for all aspects of life.
Yeah.
Why didn't you have friends in high school? I think most people find that hard to believe when they hear that.
I don't really know. I have always been, I guess, like a little bit more mature like than most kids my age, and I would much prefer spending a Saturday reading a book with my family than trying a new intoxicating substance with a bunch of other people my age. And I think kind of like the concept of like goes with like is something that is applied in high school. And it's like, if you're interested in partying and drinking and whatnot, then like you're going to hang out with the people who are also interested in that. And that was just not really me. And I think that was a reason that I didn't have many friends. Like high school is the time to experiment all those things. And like, I just wasn't really into that. So Did that bother you, or were you comfortable with your kind of acknowledgement by saying, I'm not into this and this is what they want to do? Did it ever still, despite choosing not to partake in that type of activities, make you feel lonely, or were you totally kind of at peace with, reading with the family and studying Middle Eastern politics? No, I wasn't. I mean, like I was mature, but not mature enough to recognize that what I was doing was like maybe the best thing for me. I kind of saw it as like, oh, no one wants to hang out with me. I don't have friends. I spent a lot of time being really, really sad about it. And friendships, the issue of friendships is something that people struggle with for like their whole life, But I really had a hard time coming to terms with the fact that like I wasn't, like no one really wanted to hang out with me that much. So no, I wasn't completely okay with it. It definitely took me time after graduating high school to realize that that's okay, and like that definitely shaped who I am. The reason I'm such an academic and like I love politics so deeply to my core is because all the time that I could have spent with friends was spent time like nurturing my mind, and that's something I recognized after, but during the time, no, I didn't enjoy that.
Sure. Well, that's hard to say, but great to acknowledge.
Yeah.
How do you make friends now? Like, what are you looking for? Like, what do you value in friendships? And I mean, I have found, obviously, as I've gotten older, like like you said, in high school, college, a lot of it is social activities, things like that. And then as you get older, you're able to kind of pick and choose your friends. You can be more selective.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're less maybe afraid of what people might say or the surroundings. How do you go about selecting your friends? I'm very selective about who I let into my circle, and part of that is because I did like go through a lot of bullying in high school, and I recognized that a lot of people who seemed to be my friend weren't actually, especially when I started social media. It was really interesting to see how many kids who like genuinely bullied me to my core at high school were then like reaching out to me being like, hey, can you promote this? Or like, hey, let's go get lunch, or you know, whatever. And that kind of made me realize that people are not as genuine as they may seem. What were you bullied for? So I was bullied for a myriad of things. First, it was kind of like my weight. I was like a bigger kid growing up, and then I kind of recognized that, oh, I want boys to like me. And then I kind of did a complete 180 and like went into an extremely toxic and unhealthy mindset to get to that point when I was in middle school. And then I was bullied for that. So I was bullied for being really big, and then I was bullied for like
being the anorexic girl. And then after that, I was bullied for then like not having friends, and then like and then being on social media as like the weird girl who had the social media and like a whole bunch of stuff. High school was not fun.
Yeah. I got it in middle school. I've actually, my girlfriend was also bullied a lot in high school, and she told me some stories about, you know, very like mean girl stuff, like tweeting things about them, putting things in flyers in the hall. And she's been a little bit more in the spotlight recently with us dating, and they're all DMing her.
Yeah, no,
they're all reaching out.
No one could pay me, like, there's no amount of money I would accept to go back to high school or middle school or anything. Like, there's just none. It was brutal.
Do you think it still has resonance and affects you a little bit to this day?
Yes, absolutely.
How so?
Like, I mean, just for one, like I really still keep my circle very, very, very small. I have about like 4 friends or 5 friends that I keep in my circle that like I trust with everything and anything. And then outside of that, like it's just very like friends, like acquaintance level friendships. And I think that really stems to the fact that like I was bullied in high school and really have a difficult time trusting people. Not to mention like I have lingering effects that I'm currently in therapy for, like with my relationship with food and my relationship with eating, because I was bullied about the way that I looked and like my weight for so many transformative years of like my childhood and identity shaping period. So yeah, I mean, the things that happen to you when you're like young, like you carry with them for the rest of your life. Until you get them addressed. So,
and even then it's always maintenance.
Yeah.
Masterclass, that's right. Be a master in whatever it is you want to be and learn from the absolute best. That's right. Anything from dog training to baking to cooking, photography, filmmaking, skateboarding, negotiating, the list goes on. One of my favorite, The Art of Negotiation. Natalie Portman, acting, Martin Scorsese, filmmaking. If you want to cook, Gordon Ramsay. The point is, clearly, I think we made our point clear that you're learning from the best in whatever it is you want to learn. So the videos are very well done. They're immersive. You can watch them anywhere. It's the perfect thing to consume while you're traveling. It's definitely better than trying to find something to watch on Netflix. Also, Jessie Krebs is teaching wilderness survival. Fun fact, Chrissy liked it so much, that's why she's quitting the show and becoming a park ranger. So it really can change your life. You can become inspired, become truly a master. And if you've ever wanted to pivot in the career that you don't love, maybe Masterclass will be the launching pad to get you into the woods like Chrissy. I highly recommend you check it out. It makes a great gift as well. Get unlimited access to every Masterclass. And as a Viall listener, you'll get 15% off your annual membership. Go to masterclass.com/VIALL. That's masterclass.com/VIALL for 15% off Masterclass. Be a master. Take a class. Obviously, you have a massive social media platform on all the platforms. What made you get into that?
I have always I used to do a little bit of modeling, and when I was 15, I got signed by an agency, and I was posting all these shoots, and I grew a little bit of a following. I maybe had 10,000 followers on Instagram or something. And then I met this kid who was like, oh, you should go on TikTok. You would blow up there. So I was like, okay. And this was in the summer of 2019, and I kind of just started posting random videos, and I was kind of growing, but nothing that was ever gonna transform my life. Or take me away from the career path that I had so strictly set myself to follow. But yeah, I started posting on social media. I grew a little bit of a following, and then COVID hit, and I was seeing so many young people kind of blatantly ignoring the rules of social distancing and COVID protection measures, and it was really, really angering me. So I took to my social media to kind of explain why we need to social distance and what it means, what it does, how it can help, and kind of broke down those issues and saw that had a positive effect on people of my generation, and then continued to do that with the upcoming election that was in November, and then kind of every other political issue. So, and then that's how my social media really grew. It's like I became known as the like politics girl on social media.
Wow. It's fascinating because obviously a lot of people in Gen Z got, like TikTok, it was more about dances and lip syncing. And
I mean, I did
great.
that at the beginning, like for sure. That's what I was doing. I quickly realized I'm a horrific dancer and I am just not equipped to like partake in those types of TikTok trends. Respect to those who can, but I quickly learned that I can't do that.
The way you built your following, especially in the TikTok space and the massive following you have, seems to be very different than the average TikToker. Yeah. And, you're a beautiful woman, you're a model as well. And I'm assuming a lot of people might not know anything about you, see your face on social media and make a lot of assumptions about what you're about and who you are.
Of course, yeah. It's like constantly trying to push down that narrative. I mean, it's really interesting because it's like something that I'm constantly trying to push on my platform is that like you can be beautiful and love yourself and embrace your appearance while also being super smart and driven and passionate about whatever you're passionate about. And I feel like we live in a like kind of black or white world where it's very uncommon for people to accept and acknowledge that there can be like someone in the gray space and that there's quite a lot of people in the gray space. So it's constantly a feeling like of trying to prove myself, which can be really damaging sometimes because then it kind of all stems back to like, oh, is my worth quite literally only driven by the way that I look? But then I just kind of have to keep telling myself like, no, my purpose is who I am and what my character is. And maybe my face gets the people there, but the substance comes from within, and that's what people stay for. So it's like you come for my face and you stay for my soul. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that. Do you feel like a lot of young women feel a pressure to maybe even dumb themselves down because they don't feel confident enough to show the things that they're interested in or their intelligence?
Yeah, I mean, like when you have to continuously prove that you're more than just a pretty face, you have to be like 100% mentally solid that is the truth, and that's like a very hard thing to do. I still have doubts sometimes where I'm like, oh my gosh, am I like totally not equipped to be doing what I'm doing? And I think and I have the support of like millions of people telling me that I can. And for like the average girl, like when you aren't 100% solid on a passion or like a purpose or something in your life, then yeah, sometimes like the only thing you can do is feel the need to dumb yourself down to just be a pretty face to get somewhere. It's sad, but like if you have something to say, you kind of will only be taken seriously unless you are literally like a pro at whatever you're saying, or like you're beautiful and people are willing to listen to what you have to say. It's pretty sad.
One thing I was on your Instagram and I thought was really cool and really respected about you, because I feel like, and I think everyone deals with to a certain degree, kind of like you're talking about, there's a balance between like believing in yourself and having confidence and I'm good at this, I'm smart, or I'm physically talented in sport, whatever the skill level is. But the humility and also the confidence to recognize that you don't know everything and to ask more questions.
Yeah. And
you like to bring in experts to help you discuss certain things. And while that might seem like an obvious, I don't think it is for a lot of people, especially on social media with TikTok. And everyone wants to be the expert. Everyone wants to sound like they're the smartest person in the room. Mm-hmm. And are reluctant to bring someone in who might know more than them. Where does that come from? And at such an early age in your life, that kind of recognition to both, want to let the people know you know what you're talking about, but the willingness to have the humility to say, I don't know everything. Let's bring in someone who knows even more about this. Like, you did a video about the conflict and the recent events in Afghanistan. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like, to be completely honest, the reason I do that is because the aim and intent of what I do is to educate young people, right? So my pure goal is not necessarily to make myself be the smartest in the room or like the most successful or whatever. My goal is to get young people to actually give a shit about what's happening in the world around them. And for me, for some videos, when I'm kind of just simplifying something just really fast so young people can know what's going on, I do a great job at that. Like I can summarize it in a minute. I am really well versed in like gathering different sources and making sure the material that I present to my audience is clear and true and fact-based. But the goal is to get young people to care and to know the truth of what's happening. And for me, an issue like Afghanistan that is so deeply historic and deeply complex, I made a 1-minute video, which was great. It simplifies it in a minute. But then when I want people to actually care, I talk to an expert who can provide a lot more insight, who can educate me, who can educate everyone listening. And that's simply because the goal is to get young people to learn, you know?
Yeah.
It's not a personal motivation. It's a community motivation.
And is that how you started? Is it 2-minute times?
Yeah.
What,
so
tell us about that.
Yeah, I will tell you all about that. So when I was 12, I started this thing called the 2-minute times, and it was.
What was I doing when I was 12?
I mean, I was a weirdo. I don't know. I grew up in a really.
You think it's weird?
I mean, it was weird at the time. Like I was the only 12-year-old. Yeah, unique. We'll say unique. So at the dinner table, we would always talk about politics. My mom, my brother, and myself, we would always talk about politics. And like, I literally had no idea what was going on whenever we would talk about things like the Russian invasion of Ukraine or, like just current events happening at the time. And I am a competitive person, and I would look at my brother and be like, I'm going to take you down. Can't believe you know more than me and you're outshining me in front of my mother. And I went to go talk to a bunch of people in like my classes in my 6th grade little community, like what's going on, and they gave me nothing. So I decided to research.
So like you're at recess, they're playing kickball, and you're like, guys, do we know what's going on in Russia?
No, literally. And I mean, like, it's not their fault. Like, I didn't, like, 12-year-old is supposed to know the details about what's happening in the world around them. But basically, I was like, okay, I am gonna have to educate myself. And I was reading all these articles, and I learned that like it's so hard for a young person to be able to understand what's being written in these like really advanced news articles that they're just hard to read and hard to learn from and hard to understand, especially when you're young. So I decided to create the 2-minute times, which was a weekly newsletter that I sent out for 7 years, or actually 6.5. I ended when I was halfway through being 18. And I basically would just take the top 3 to 5 stories, like weekly news stories, and break it down in a couple of sentences each story, just so that young people could know what's going on and understand the world in a really summarized but like fun young way. I would like add puns and colors, and I would just make it fun to read for young people. But then I ended up just doing that until I did it from 12 to 18, and I that's kind of how I learned how to like take a lot of sources and break down information. And it really helped me for what I'm doing now, because I know how to summarize an event in the news. But yeah, that's what the 2-minute times is.
That's great. And what are your goals with that? Or I guess I kind of hate this question when people ask me, like 5-year, but you're going to Georgetown, you are studying politics, you're passionate about it. Like, what would a dream job be for you?
I don't know. I mean, it changes every day. I used to think that I wanted to work in a think tank and like actually be behind the scenes making policy for U.S. foreign affairs in the Middle East. Like, that was my goal, 100%. And then I recognized that my voice on social media has like a unique power. I can get people to listen to what I have to say. And with that, my goals are constantly changing. I could see myself maybe having like a political talk show, or just, I don't know, something on screen where people
run for office.
A woman who used to work in the Obama administration told me that I should, and I had never thought about it before then, because that just gives me the ultimate like fear of all fears.
Like everyone looking into you.
And just like using my old 2019 TikTok dancing videos as like ammunition against me, and like. But
I wonder, like, I feel like that's just the world.
Yeah, I mean, that's the world we're entering.
We enter.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a future president, whether it's you,
yeah,
or someone else, is gonna have compromising videos. And
For
I don't
sure.
mean like, cancelable
For sure.
offenses, but like they might be doing kind of a weird
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
kind of like funny joke.
Of course. I
That's
mean,
awkward, and they're just going to have to deal with that on the campaign trail.
yeah, I mean, it's the future. So I mean, when she told me that, I was kind of like, oh, maybe. I don't know though. Running for office is a very scary thing. I don't know if I'm equipped for that. Also, I don't ever want to feel like I have to compromise my morals to win something,
Yeah, that was kind of my next question. Do you think I once had a mentor who used to work for a senator, and he just said, he's like, you know what? There's only one job.
Yeah.
And that job is to get reelected.
Yeah, I mean, it's the deeply sad reality of American politics is that we focus so much more on getting reelected than actually making change in this country. And I don't feel like I could ever run for office if that was kind of a sacrifice that I had to make.
Yeah. And kind of to your point, when you're mentioning that your like original goal is kind of being a think tank and focusing on policy, that might, I feel like, could get discouraging, because here you are, you're in this kind of behind the scenes thinking of all these ideas and policy, presenting them to whoever the decision makers and influencers are, and now you are in fact literally an influencer through your social media platform, and you can in fact advocate and have impact on real change.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been the goal, is to create change. Whether it was behind the scenes and my face wasn't a part of it at all, or posting videos that had the aim of getting people to know about something. Like, the goal is always change, whether or not I'm the face of it or not. Like, the goal is to get people to care and to make change happen in this country, because there's so much more that needs to be done.
You must get discouraged.
Yes.
Because you want I get discouraged a lot. I mean, I just have a silly podcast, and I am trying to advocate for ideas and have people see the other side. A lot of it is relationship driven. Mm-hmm. And it just gets discouraging, especially if you pay attention to critics, and it's like you want feedback, right? But then how do you take that feedback and decide whether it's helpful, useful, or just hate?
I mean, that's a question I think that every person on social media has to constantly ask themselves. For me personally, when it comes to talking about politics, I've had so many years of actually studying politics and issues that I've been able to make an opinion that is so solid to my morals that what others have to say about it holds no value, because I'm so sturdy in my belief system. But when it comes to topics that I don't know a lot about, and I'm kind of forced to research it for the week prior before I make a video, or I'm just talking about something I'm not 100% confident I'm solid about, of course, I get discouraged, and I read people's comments, and I'm like, oh dear, did I say something wrong? Should I take it down and continue researching? I mean, it's normal. It's part of the process. But I mean, you just have to be confident in yourself. That's something I'm trying to learn right now, is that I have to believe in myself if I ever want to be anyone and do something with my life. I just have to believe in myself.
Yeah, I try to tell myself too that if I'm doing my job, if I'm at least upsetting some people, and not because I'm ever deliberately trying to upset anyone. I try so hard not to, and I always try to be genuine. Everything I say, I believe it, so to speak, and my mind can be changed, and I might mess up, so to speak, but I'm doing my job if I can get people to think. And often I've realized that part of triggering people and getting them to consider an alternative point of view requires for you to first ruffle their feathers, or get them to consider something that they have an identity or attachment to.
For sure.
We had Dr. Maya, behavioral scientist who also worked for the Obama campaign, talk a lot about that recently, and and that can be challenging, but also just really discouraging, especially when you care about what you do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can only imagine relationships are so deeply I guess connected to the way that you perceive yourself, and the way that you exist in this world and like everything you've experienced as a child like is also attached to like the way that you form relationships and how you interact with people in relationships. So I can imagine that people who like are constantly on the defense about the way that they behave in relationships can be really like tough. I mean,
Yeah.
like having someone, I don't know, I can't put it into words, but I know exactly what you're saying, and it's hard to realize. It's kind of like going to therapy. It's hard to realize that something you're doing is wrong or bad, or that someone that you love is doing something that's wrong or bad. It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was watching. I've been watching Sex in the City. Have you ever watched?
Of course.
Okay. My girlfriend got me into it, and I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I'm passionate about it, but I love it because I was just like, Carrie Bradshaw's so toxic and a terrible friend. And I mentioned that, and a lot of people agreed, but also a lot of people very upset because, well, they see themselves in Carrie, and Carrie's just like everyone else. She's imperfect and has a lot of admirable qualities, but also a terrible friend, terrible dater, horrible picker.
Yeah. I mean, did you finish this show?
I haven't finished. No.
Okay,
Miranda just had a baby.
Oh, okay. We love that for her.
The writers hate Miranda.
They do. It's sad.
They hate her.
Yeah.
She got chlamydia. She's the one who's farting all the time. They hate her, and she's truly the best.
Yeah, she's a hard worker.
She's a hard worker. She's
a good person.
She makes the best decisions for herself.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm getting off.
I mean, being that character isn't the like sexiest character, so to say.
I know.
So
I was on your Twitter, and in your picture, I don't know, was it profile intersectional feminism? Am I saying that right?
Yes, intersectional.
And I feel like I know a little bit what that was. Allie and I looked it up. Interesting topic. You must be passionate about it to put it on your Twitter.
I mean, I'm just passionate about issues that have to do with women, of course, and making sure that it isn't, white women as the ones who are like getting all of the feminist attention, because intersectional feminism is all about like making sure that the things that we fight for are all intersectional, so it's whether it's like racial issues and female like feminist issues, like making sure that those are intertwined and connected and not separating them as two completely separate things, but making sure that we're fighting for them.
Yeah, I like that because I was thinking about it too, because I think a lot of times whatever we attach ourselves to, like if it's feminism and you're a woman or even a guy supporting it, I think we sometimes look at how it impacts us.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we forget that some of these isms or concepts that we are trying to advocate for change are more about having empathy for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Is that where that comes from? Or,
yeah. I mean, just kind of a side note is this like what I've realized by being someone who talks about politics and social justice issues online is that like so many people lack empathy for others. It's very scary.
That empathy is going the wrong way.
Yeah, it's actually incredibly frightening and very sad to see is that unless you are like being affected, like you literally don't care. That's why, like, not to make this all political, but like why so many people voted for, and I don't know your political beliefs and I don't mean to upset you, but like that's why I feel like so many people voted for Trump in the election was because it was a very like self-motivated vote. If it's you're voting for someone who's going to benefit you like individually rather than the entire community at large, the entire population of America, like the people in poverty, the people struggling, the people who are oppressed in this country. Yeah, so there's just like a lack of empathy, I think, when it comes to all these issues in general.
Yeah, no, I think there's just a lack of empathy in that regard, in life, on the street, on social media.
Yeah.
And I think everyone is guilty to a certain degree.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think social media has made us all more selfish and self-centered, and that leads to all our choices in life. Being a part of Gen Z, what are there? It's a very kind of I think it's as much of as any young generation is the most activist type of generation. I think the youth generally is
Yeah.
more prone to be activists and for change, but Gen Z more than anyone before. What are, as you look at Gen Z, what do you think they're really good at, and what do you think are maybe some weaknesses of Gen Z that they could you would like to see them do a better job?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting question that you ask, because I mean, I'm at fault for the things that I'm going to say weaknesses are.
Sure.
You know, like I play a part in contributing to the weaknesses, but I mean, I think one of the best things about Gen Z and their desire to be active and engaged in the political world is that they're simply like willing to speak out. I think that Gen Z is, like, unlike any other generation, willing to be vocal about their beliefs, not really caring about what others have to say about it, but knowing that if they believe something is morally right and true, then they're going to speak out about it. And that's beautiful. I don't think we've seen a lot of that in the past, and social media makes that has such a more powerful effect on that, because it can be reverberated across millions of different people, like towards millions of different people. The weakness, I would say, is maybe just like a lot of the times I've seen that people can kind of like shove ideas down other people's throats, and they're not willing to have a conversation. It's kind of like if you're having a conversation or trying to have a conversation with someone from an opposite political spectrum of you, it's very much clash, not communication, which can be really damaging. I would hope to see in the future that we can kind of like have civil conversations about issues, because that's the only way we will actually get somewhere, rather than just putting fire towards fire. Does that make any sense?
No, it does. Yeah. And I like that you mentioned, conflict and not conversation.
Yeah.
And it's not just Gen Z. I think it's everyone to a certain degree. You're in a public relationship.
Yes.
You mentioned it. His name's Blake.
Yes, Blake.
You mentioned he's also a TikToker, a character. I come from a space Bachelor World, where you were in a relationship. We've talked about on the show. There's a currency in that. How do you ever feel pressure? Well, how do you separate that from affecting your relationship? And have you ever caught you and Blake doing things out of character because you thought that's what your audience expected of you or wanted you? And how do you guys manage that? Or do you prioritize it, or do you think about that?
It's such a good question. It's really interesting having like a public relationship online, because everything you do and say is like magnified times 1,000. Blake and I are really good about like kind of keeping our personal relationship personal and only sharing tidbits of our life to social media. I would say that a lot of our followers know genuinely like nothing about our relationship, but the fact that we are in a relationship, which I think is like great, to be honest, because then there are no expectations to like uphold an image of something, simply because they don't have an image of us that we feel the need to uphold. It's kind of like we're together. We have a fun a reputation online, and a really private one. So I would say that like no to the fact that there needs to be like a character that needs to be played. I don't feel that way at all, but I will say that having a relationship on social media can be really tricky, in the sense that like you have to make sure that your relationship doesn't become like the two people in the relationship in the same industry don't like start to compete with each other. It's really hard like being in the same industry. Sometimes we're fighting for the same jobs and like fighting to make the same connections, which can actually be like really toxic and difficult to handle.
Yeah, I mean, shit, I wasn't in a public relationship in my early 20s, and I've never had a relationship until the current one I have now, where we weren't competing, or I felt like there was, so it doesn't even have to be a public platform or social media. I think that's a challenge for young couples or people in any relationship to compete with each other, especially if they're both competitive people, and that can be a challenge.
It's tough, but at the end of the day, like separating work from your personal relationships is really, really important.
How long have you guys been dating?
Our 1 year was like a week ago.
So you guys like in love? Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Is it love?
Yes. I mean, like I do love him and he
Is this
loves
the
me.
First love?
This is my first love, my first relationship. I'm 19 years old, so couldn't say
Never know. I mean, there's a
That's true.
lot of people 19 on their fourth
That's true. That's
serious
true.
relationship. So you never really know.
Yeah.
When I was 19,
Yeah.
20, and I was in love.
Yeah.
I came, I'm from Wisconsin. I came from a very kind of traditional household. My parents were my role models.
Mm-hmm.
They got married at an early age. I don't know what your parents' story is,
Yeah.
but do you think, and I think also like Gen Z, they seem to be more independent, less traditional, more willing to, also maybe it's a result of social media, that their influence isn't just coming from their smaller community and their
Yeah.
community being their parents.
For sure.
With you and Blake dating, when I was 19 and 20, we were already talking about like this, and we're in love. So if
Yeah.
we're in love and we're dating,
Yeah.
I guess we should start talking about like, do we want to get married someday? And things like that. And I think even today, a lot of young couples will feel a pressure, either self-inflicted or by society, to say, you're my number one priority. You're my everything. If it's
Yeah.
true love, then
Yeah.
we're all that. Do you feel that pressure? How do you two still prioritize all your personal ambitions, of which I don't know him,
Yeah.
you clearly have a lot of.
Yeah.
And are you okay with acknowledging maybe we're not each other's top priority, and that's okay because we're still 19, 20 years old?
Yeah, I mean, for him and I, we have a kind of like cute way to go about it. It's kind of like we spend our day getting shit done, right? We don't really communicate throughout the day. Like we kind of just focus on what we have to do, and we live like two separate lives kind of. And then at night we like spend quality, meaningful time together. And I think that's kind of like the best way to do it, because we recognize that when we're working, we're not each other's top priority. But when we're not working, like we make each other a priority. I think that's kind of like the best way that we do it. Yeah, that's like a short answer to a long question, but
But do you guys even think about, like, do you think about marriage and kids at this point in your life? Because I mean, I did when I was younger, and then I look back and go, why did I even bother?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to think about that stuff.
Sure.
Like sometimes I'll like be on Pinterest and I'm like, oh my God, look at this pretty wedding dress.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wear this on our wedding day. But then at the same time, like I'm not having kids until I'm over the age of 30. Like I very much plan to make my life a priority before anything else. I want to make sure that like my happiness is at the forefront of my life. If Blake and I are together for another like 15 years and we get married and have a kid, like that's awesome. Like I love him and I would love that. But ultimately, like there's no pressure that we have to like stick to a timeline or stick to like a goal sheet. Like, like it's not like crossing off things on a list for us. It's like we go through life together and it's beautiful and it's fun and we love it and there's no pressure,
It sounds like you guys are good at setting boundaries in the relationship, which
boundaries
I think
are
a lot
important.
of people,
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to learn the importance of that. Speaking of boundaries, like what are some of the things that you guys have set for yourself? Like, for example, a thing that's pretty common are questions we get asked in terms of, and I don't know if I personally don't think there's right or wrong answers. It's just about the relationship and what you guys agree, but social media being what it is, and you guys both being public figures, you're both good looking people, you're both sought after.
Yeah.
What is your stance on, or do you even talk about you two, say, following other people, having friends of the opposite sex? Do you guys pay attention to who each other follows? And, a lot of people, if you don't know him or know her, why are you following her? Or do they have to follow you back? What is your stance on stuff like that?
I mean, it's like a funny question, because at the beginning of our relationship, like in the first like month or whatever, I could tell that he was following like a lot of beautiful women, and I didn't ever say anything, but I was kind of like, it's kind of fishy. But no, like he's
that's the most chill response to that. Someone noticing that it's kind of fishy.
Yeah, I mean, like ultimately, like the way that I see it is like I am a gift. right? I am a gift and he is lucky to have me. And like, if I don't care if he follows other girls, like I really don't. But like if he ever like takes advantage of that and then he loses me and that's his fault. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm like, I have that boundary for myself and he knows that. And like the same thing with me, like we would never jeopardize our relationship because we genuinely have such like it's like two best friends that are like in love. Like we just like chill out and we love each other. And it's just like, it's just a great relationship that I feel like none of us even have like concerns about the other abusing like the fact that we like have other friendships of the same sex. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, but a lot of people sweat the small stuff.
yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes from a place of like insecurity in yourself. I don't have that fear because like I know my worth as a human being and I know that he's lucky to have me and I know the same that I'm lucky to have him too, but like I have that.
Where does that come from? Because I think about parenting and being a dad, and if there's anything I want to teach my kids is that, you know, how do you set boundaries with them without having them be rebellious? And I've thought to myself, well, I just want to teach self-worth and the belief in yourself. Is that something your parents instilled in you? Because yeah, obviously you're smart and talented and good looking, and a lot of people would look at you and say, of course she's confident, but like we all know, and you've talked about some of your struggles,
Yeah.
right? You know, bullying,
Yeah.
struggles with diet, friends. We all have a lot of reasons to be insecure. Where does that knowing you're a gift and
Yeah.
holding whoever you bring into your life accountable for living up to that expectation come from?
That's such a good question. I don't really know. I think it's taken me like a long time to get here. I read a lot of like self-help books. I'm a big reader. I think you can probably like gather that by now. But I read a lot of like self-help books and confidence books. And I have people in my life who I trust more than anything and who have given me the support system I need to recognize my worth as a human being. Part of the reason part of the consequence of like, or I wouldn't even say it's a consequence, I think it's a good thing, but like part of not having a humongous circle of friends and like quite literally only having like 4 or 5 people that I really trust and value with everything in me is that they are such a strong support system for me, and they help me realize that I have immense worth as a human being. So I really accredit it to like the other people in my life that I trust and love telling me that.
Yeah, that's great. If you ever had a friend who was dating someone you didn't like, how would you go about that?
I've had that before. At the end of the day, like it's not my place. Like if you're happy and you're in love, who am I to like shit on that? Do you know what I mean? As long as like someone isn't being emotionally abused, verbally abused, physically abused, like it's not my place. You live and you learn. Like the lessons that you go through are ones that life is throwing at you because you need to grow as a human being. And I'm there when you need me and I'm here to support you. But as long as like there's literally there's nothing dire that's happening, like it's your responsibility to like recognize that.
Great.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. No, it's great. But like
it's like tough love, but I mean,
answer.
it's kind of who I am.
What is something about your parents that you really admire about the relationship? And then what's something about your parents that, well, great parents, you love them, that you're like, you know what, I might want to do it differently because I've learned
I have an answer for
to
that.
not do that.
Yeah. So my parents are divorced. They got divorced when I was 4. And what I love about them is that they, despite not even being together anymore, have like such a great relationship. We spend Christmases together. We spend birthday dinners together. We have like family dinners all the time, which is incredible because I get to experience both like my mom and my dad like as a coherent family unit, despite them not being together. It may be once every 3 months, but I love that I don't have like a really negative view on relationships because of my parents. Like if they hated each other, I would probably have a different set of issues that I don't currently have. So I really admire that. And something I don't ever want to do is they had a very much like love at first sight kind of relationship. They got engaged after like 3 months of being together and got married right away. And then they were married for 15 years, but I think the biggest downfall was that they didn't take the time to like realize if they were like meant to be with each other. So I think that's the only thing I would not want to like duplicate, is just like taking time and recognizing that this person is like going to fit into my life in a really positive way rather than not.
Do you? I mean, you're enrolled in Georgetown. You're taking a gap semester. So you're living here. Blake lives here. You're going to Georgetown. Have you guys talked about the long distance and how you're going to handle that? Is that something you get worried about or he worries about?
Yeah.
And how do you stop letting your insecurities create current conflict that's not even here yet?
Yeah, that's a great question. We were sort of talking. I ended up not going literally like 3 days before because I realized that I would just like break down as a human being if I was doing that on top of everything else that I'm doing. Like moving across the country and everything would have like made me like a troubled human being. But anyways, we were talking a lot about how like we were going to do it, but we weren't talking about it so extensively because like we kind of have this existing trust in each other that like nothing would happen. Yeah, it would be tough, but I have been on like trips before where I'm gone for 2 weeks and then I come home and I see him, or like I'm gone for a while and I don't really even have the time to text him or anything, but we come back and everything's fine. So I think that like when I was going to move, we were definitely going to be able to make it work. And we weren't worried about making it work because my work anyways requires me to be like in LA constantly, or traveling different places constantly. So it was kind of like, well, we'd see each other probably once every 2 or 3 weeks. And in that case, it's not like such an intense long distance, like 4 to 6 months kind of thing. So it wasn't like a huge worry on our minds. We were kind of just like, oh, I don't want to not spend every day with you, you know?
Yeah. Are you more introverted than extroverted?
Yes, very much so.
Same.
Yeah.
Another thing I've focused, like I'd never, and maybe that's just society and social media, but I think being introverted is something that people acknowledge now. Like we had Susan Cannon on our podcast who wrote the book on being an introvert, but it was something that for the longest time in my life, the introverted aspects that I had, I would dismiss. Or when people would be like, oh, you're a little bit of an introvert, I'd be like, no, I'm not. I'd get very defensive about that. Of course, yeah. Is that different now for Gen Z people that are more open to the acknowledgement of not being a certain way? I think back in the day, our society was literally told it's better to be extroverted. It's better to be right-handed. It's like it's better to do X, Y, and Z. And I feel like we're just as a society a little more open to being different, being weird or whatever, and or is that not the case, or is it still people are afraid to acknowledge being an introvert?
I can't speak for other people, but for myself, like I always thought it was like such a flex to be like I'm an extrovert, I thought it was like not cool to be an introvert at all, which I mean, like when you're young, I guess it isn't, like I guess just people like young kids seem to think that like being an extrovert, I mean, you get to play with more people and be a more like friendly child, I guess, if you're like more extroverted. So that's why I think maybe when we're younger, that's why. But I think the pandemic really made me like okay with being an introvert. I realized that it was such a relief, like not having to go places and be around people I didn't actually like, and putting on this facade of enjoying my time away from like home.
Like your energy was channeled better. Because that's one thing I've learned, like learned from Susan, is just like it's more about how you like extroverts will actually get energy from social interactions, and extroverts have to spend energy. So there's like a currency. So like, and I don't know about you, I like parties, I like going out, I like social events, but how I use that energy is very valuable to me because I have a finite amount of it. I mean,
I like honestly never leave my house, and like when I do, I'm very present and I'm very much there because I have like 3 weeks of like padding to kind of like make that like experience okay. no, I like really don't leave my house unless I absolutely need to. I don't feel the need to like say yes to a bunch of social situations because like I'm not on the hunt for like more friends or like I'm just not like desperate for anything. So I'm kind of like, okay, being like, no, I'm not going to go to that. When it's like a work thing and I have to go, like I muster up the energy and I do what I have to do, and I kind of like have to fake it sometimes, which is fine. But ultimately I only like go to things and do things with people I like, and only do experiences that I know I will come out like having enjoyed. So yeah.
Is Blake more of an extrovert?
Oh, for sure. Like he's like life of the party, loves to go out, loves to have fun, and it's good for me because he definitely like gets me out more than I otherwise would. But I think I also kind of like tame him in a little, like bring him in, and we really balance each other out in a great way. So yeah.
Who's the drama queen in your relationship?
Honestly, both of us, like for completely different things. Like sometimes I'm crazy over dramatic. No, I'm not crazy, but I'm like over dramatic. I'm crazy over dramatic, and I kind of just, it's funny because I'm like, if like he kind of knows that like if I'm like upset over something, like sometimes he's like, are you actually mad, or do you just want me to give you like a lot of hugs and kisses? And he just like knows that sometimes I just want attention and I'm not actually upset about something. So I can definitely be like a drama queen in that way. But then other times he's the exact same way, and I know kind of like when he just wants more attention and he's the drama queen. So we both are.
It sounds like you guys have a really great relationship, and there's a lot of recognition of immaturity. And I mean, you guys are lucky because shit, man, a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether it's is it his first serious relationship?
No, he's been in a bunch, but they like from what he's been in a lot.
Are you like how are you with like? Are you good with exes?
Oh,
like,
I don't care. Like,
yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm just like I don't know. Maybe I'm just like so self-aware that I like should be caring more about this stuff, but I just like genuinely don't. Like he still follows his exes. I don't care.
Should,
like
a lot of people do.
Yeah. I mean, like I don't have an issue with any of them. I'm kind of like, okay, they taught you things that you have now learned and like are now bringing to my relationship, and all I can say is like I'm grateful for that. But that's it. Like you're with me, you're not with them. I don't really care. You know what I mean?
Okay, so final question before we play our game. Do you know me? Having had this conversation with you, you clearly have a lot of perspective.
Okay. Thank you.
You're 19 years old. And if I get to be a parent,
yeah,
the only thing I really want to teach my kid is perspective.
Yeah.
At an early age. I lacked perspective when I was younger. My lack of perspective caused me to invest just so much energy into things that didn't matter. Mm-hmm. Even if it was like heartbreak or failure, I would exaggerate the impact it had on my life as a lack of perspective. I guess I'm thankful for it at that point, because so much of what I talk about on my show and our Ask Dick is I'm just trying to offer people perspective about a situation they might not have seen. But where does that come from? Like, I mean, it's not just that you're smart, because a lot of smart people lack perspective. Mm-hmm. Where does, I'm fascinated by the level of perspective you have and all these things I'm asking you, and I'm like, it makes so much sense, but I think people take for granted the perspective that you have, and I'm just fascinated, like, where does it come from? And I just want to steal it away, because like if it was something you were taught, I want to take that and teach, because I don't know how to. It's hard to teach.
Yeah,
like
for
you
sure.
have to live it sometimes.
For sure. And my mom is my superwoman, and she went to therapy for years to kind of unlearn the toxic parenting habits that were taught to her when she was little. And I think kind of like the most important thing is like you have to go to therapy before you become a child, but before you become a parent, to kind of like unlearn all of the really toxic parenting traits that were like passed down to you. Mm-hmm. I honestly think that's why like she has a lot of perspective, because she went to therapy for years, and therapists are like just they give you all the tools to be able to have perspective. I think that's a huge reason why. I also think that, I used to go to therapy when I was like a teenage, like 13 to 15, because I was going through a lot of problems with a family member. And that taught me a lot of perspective. I learned kind of like a lot of like little tools and nuggets of wisdom, like I'm not responsible for that person's feelings. And yeah, I mean, therapy is the answer.
Okay, great. So just send them off to therapy. No, it's really something. I have an actual memory of perspective, and I got it from my grandma Phyllis.
Yeah.
And it was, she's my grandmother, and she just was like, she was just trying to tell me just how much life I had left to live.
Yeah.
And I just never, just even that idea that there's so much more to live for, that things just, everything I like, tomorrow is going to happen, and there's so many more tomorrows. And I was 25, and that was the first time I even considered the possibility of perspective. So congrats to you and your mom and having it figured out much sooner than most people ever do.
I'm lucky I have her as my mom.
Amelie, this has been a lot of fun.
Yes.
Are you down to play a fun, quick, easy game before I let you go?
It's
called Do You Know Me? Real simple. I'm going to ask you some questions. Has Amelie ever done this?
Okay.
Do you do that?
Okay.
Yes or no answers are fine.
Okay.
Anecdotal stories are welcomed.
Okay.
But totally fine if you don't have one.
Perfect.
Do you know me with Amelie Zilber? Question number 1. Mm-hmm. Has Amelie ever muted one of their friends on Instagram?
Yes.
I would have guessed yes, just because specifically for that, mute. They don't know.
Yeah, they don't know. You don't have to deal with it.
You obviously cherish your mental health above all things.
Yes,
and while friends are great, sometimes they're shitty.
Yep.
For your mental health.
It's a boundary for yourself.
Yeah. Question number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Allie picked these out.
Okay, let's also say that Nick loves to give disclaimers when we play this game so that no one drags him. But
it's smart.
I'm not.
It's smart.
Every time we play.
This is more of a gender thing. Like maybe this is something.
Yeah, she can know. I picked it. I got you.
Okay.
Has Amelie ever peed in a bottle?
No, but I have peed on the side of a cliff before when my boyfriend took me. What's it called? It's like when you drive on like rocky mountains and things.
ATVing?
Yeah, I don't know what it's called.
We don't know what it's called either.
But I had to pee and we were in the middle of nowhere and I was like, all right, fuck it.
Yeah.
Do women have to consider wind as well as men when
it's really hard. The aim is like a hard thing. I got locked out of my house in high school one time. So I was like in my garage and I was like, I either go out in the snowbank and pee or I try and aim into this apple juice container. And I made it, but it was difficult.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's a hard thing.
It's hard. Yeah.
It doesn't sound easy. Thank you for your honesty.
You're welcome.
Does Amelie know the Pythagorean theorem?
Pythagorean theorem?
Pythagorean?
Yes.
I have a speaking problem.
That's okay.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Do you know
Pythagorean theorem?
Pythagorean theorem.
I definitely learned that in school. That's why I know the word. It's a math thing, but I'm not... I don't... I was opted out of math in school because I'm studying politics, so I don't have to take math ever again.
No one's questioning your intelligence, even if you get it wrong. A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Mm-hmm.
This might be a HIPAA violation. Has Amelie ever had surgery?
Yes. I have. I had to go to the hospital 3 times this past year. I had 3 different things happen to me.
You okay?
Yeah, I think it was like 100% stress induced.
Stress is a bugaboo.
Yeah.
How do you deal with stress? What are your go-to remedies?
Well, first I cry.
Okay.
Like first and foremost. And then I read quotes about how I'm going to be okay. And then I'm like, oh, okay, no, I'm going to be fine. And then I spend time with my dogs and I read a book. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to be good.
How many dogs do you have?
I have 2. And then my boyfriend has a 3rd that I claim as my own.
Before you came, I just found out my dog Jeff lift his leg to pee for the first time, and I feel like a parent who just missed their kid's first word.
No, it's sad. I didn't get to see. I mean, my boyfriend has a new dog, and I didn't get to see it either. And I claim him as my own, so I was very sad to hear that.
Has Amelie ever called the police?
Oh no.
Okay.
I did get pulled over once though. but I was crying and they let me go.
That tracks.
I was fully sobbing in my car. It was the night before my birthday, and it was like one of those like DUI checkpoints to see like, I don't know, like they just have them and a bunch of cars have to go through them, and I was just like sobbing. Birthdays are just very stressful for me.
Why so? I same.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I just feel like there's such an expectation to like have the best day ever, and then I don't, and then I'm like, I hate everyone and everything, and I hate my life.
Your perspective's great. Do you feel the same about New Year's Eve?
Yes, I do.
Do you get awkward with attention?
It depends. Like sometimes yes, sometimes no. If I like feel like I look really pretty, then like no, I don't. I'm like, yay. Everyone's looking at me. Yeah. But or if I have something really interesting to say, I'm like, I am smart. But then otherwise I'm like, please don't look at me.
Again, I didn't select this one. Has Amelie ever taken a pregnancy test?
No, but I did hear a really scary fact about birth control, that when you're on the pill, just because you get your period doesn't mean you're not pregnant. It's like a fake period. Did you know that? I didn't know that.
Well, because it's like
you can like spot.
It's basically like when you get your period on any form of birth control, like getting your period is kind of like mowing the lawn in a way, and then you have like your clippings, but like the lawn hasn't grown, so like there's really no clippings. Yeah,
it's like a fake period, basically, induced by your hormones. So like you can still be fully pregnant and have your period from birth control.
Dude, it's like my biggest fear is like I can't believe I'm pregnant or whatever that TLC.
Yeah,
I didn't know I was pregnant.
You got on a plane and then all of a sudden you're having a baby.
Like literally, they're like you're 8.5 months along.
No, that's horrible.
Has Amelie eaten McDonald's in the past week?
No, not in the past week.
You eat McDonald's?
I love myself a big, large, full of ice Diet Coke. Ugh. It just hits different. It does.
That's my girlfriend. I don't like why.
No, McDonald's filters the water that becomes their ice, so that's like specifically good. Like their ice specifically really is better than any
Diet
other.
Coke.
I'm gonna stop for one today. Really... There's a McDonald's right there.
I should too.
Yeah.
I was thinking of going to the movies, and maybe I'll.
You'd like the taste of Diet Coke over regular Coke?
Yes, regular Coke is foul.
What? Natalie feels the same. I don't get it. I don't get it. I find Diet Coke to be foul, but you teach their own. You like pee questions, Allie.
It's just, it comes naturally, you know.
Has Amelie ever peed in a pool?
Oh, of course I have. Not something I'm proud of, but you know, when you're young and you don't really care, like, although I do say I never pee in the shower. I don't obviously don't pee in pools anymore, but like I cannot pee in the shower. I have grotesque.
I love peeing in the shower.
Wait, what?
You like get two things done, and it's like 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner.
Like it's just gross.
It's just done. It's over.
Yeah.
That's gross. Also, like, I mean, I feel like for women, there's a lot of skin
yes.
It's like as guys can.
I'm gonna wash it anyways.
Oh, God.
That's true, but I can't do that. I'm also like, am I standing on it? I don't know.
That's what the drain is for.
All right, final question. Has Amelie ever broken into her own house?
Yes, I have. Wow. I went through the doggy door because I was locked out. It was very late at night and I had to squeeze myself through the dog door. And then I told my mom I did that. And then she like changed the location of the dog door and where the door handle was on the door because she realized that if I could do it, someone else could do it.
I lied on that. Have you ever committed a crime?
No.
A misdemeanor of any kind?
I don't know.
I don't need
haven't.
you to name said crime.
No, I haven't. I haven't. At least not intentionally. I did actually take a mascara once, but like I totally didn't realize. And then I told my mom like right after. I was like, "Oh, did we buy this?" And she was like, "No." I was like, crime mother-daughter duo.
Evil villains. Amelie, thank you so much. It's been such a delight talking to you. Can you let my audience know where they can find you on social for all the people who aren't already following you? Let them know, and all the other things you want them to check out and the work that you're doing.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. I actually really enjoyed this. This was super fun. My Instagram is @Amelie Zilber. Same with my TikTok. Same with my YouTube. It's just my first and last name. You can find me anywhere. And just keep eyes open for a really special show that I have coming out, all about issues that matter to Gen Z.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on all your success. Again,
you.
I can't talk.
That's okay.
Even though I have a podcast. Really awesome to talk with you.
Yeah.
You're an awesome inspiration to Gen Z and every generation. And if you're looking for perspective, pay attention to Amelie. She seems to have a lot of it. Thanks for listening, guys. Don't forget to send in your questions at asknick@castmedia.com. Cast with a K for Ask Nick episodes. If you are tuning in to listen to Amelie, welcome to our podcast. Check out more episodes. We're in the 300s. If you're like listening to relationship and dating stories, people calling in with their problems, concerns, and hearing more perspective and an honest interpretation of those challenges, check us out on Mondays. And we have other great public figures like Amelie on Wednesdays. And if you're a fan of reality TV, we break down The Bachelor when it's on. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. See you back on Monday. Hey guys, thanks for watching, but before you go, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss any future videos like our Mondays Ask Nick for your favorite relationship stories and advice, and our Tuesday Bachelor recaps. See you next time.